Hello, students, and welcome to the CompTIA Tech Plus exam course brought to you by Third Level Technology. I'm your instructor, Jim Herbie. In this episode, we're going to begin our lecture series through the exam objectives by beginning with Module 1, which discusses IT terminology. In this episode, we will discuss Section 1.1. Our topic is Computing Basics. Let's begin.
We're going to begin by discussing input. Input is when a user will send information or data to a computer for processing. Processing are the steps that we take for a computer to convert input into output. We'll discuss each of those here in a moment. For now, we're going to discuss input and the different forms that it can take with a user and a computer. Input is going to be any type of hardware device that allows a user to enter data into a computer. Input can take many different forms. It can be typing, speaking words, moving or clicking on a mouse, microphones, and others. Let's take a look at some common input devices. The first, and perhaps the most common type of input device, is a keyboard. A keyboard is what we call typewriter input. It allows a user to use the different keys to input letters, words, and symbols that a computer can process and display on a screen. Another type of input device is a mouse. A mouse is going to be a peripheral device that allows you to move a cursor or an arrow across the screen and to interact by clicking on the mouse buttons. We also can use what's called a trackpad, which is commonly found on laptops, where we use our fingers to move across a square or rectangular pad that performs similar functions that a mouse does. Another type of input device is a microphone. Microphone is an input device for spoken audio input. We also have webcams. Webcams are a hardware device that allows us to use input in the form of video recordings. Other input devices you may see are digital cameras, which allow for digital image input, as well as scanners, which allow us to create electronic files from different documents that we put on the scanner bed. Now we're going to contrast input with output. Output will be any information that is processed by a computer and displayed in some type of format to be viewed or heard by a user through some type of output hardware. Output can come in both visual, audio, and tactile or touch forms. One common output hardware device is a monitor or a display screen. This allows us to have visual image output. We also have headphones and speakers. Headphones and speakers allow us to listen to audio output. Another type of common output device is a printer. This is where we can have output in the form of printed paper. We also can use projectors, hardware devices that allow us to display images, as well as plotters. A plotter is a hardware device that allows us to display graphical output. If a certain type of hardware is classified as input or output, take a look at how is the user interacting with that specific type of hardware. To send data or information to a computer, that's going to be input. A display or audio that is going to be consumed by a user from a specific hardware device will be output. Now we're going to discuss processing. And processing will be all of the actions and the steps that a computer does to change input into output data. One way we can do processing is through software. Software is where we can manipulate or extract data from a stored file. This allows a user to change stored information into a new format. We also have hardware processing. Hardware processing is when we use any type of internal computer component to change input into output. The most common component that we use for hardware processing is your CPU, your central processing unit. The CPU will be the main component within your computer's motherboard that will be able to process all of the different commands and input that users will interact with on the computer. Some other processing components will be your RAM memory, can retrieve data and applications that are commonly used in our computer. We store these in a temporary location called memory. Other processing components will be your motherboard. This is the main circuit board that holds all of your CPU, memory, and storage components, as well as expansion slots. Expansion slots will be locations on your motherboard where you can add additional adapter cards to increase a certain type of functionality. Some common expansion slots you will see will be graphics cards if you're into high speed or streaming services or gaming. We also use expansion slots if we want to increase the capacity of our computer's memory and storage. Now let's go ahead and talk about the last component of our computing basics, which is storage. Storage is when we are retaining our data for later retrieval. There are two types of storage, volatile and non-volatile. Volatile storage will require a constant and consistent power supply to access that data. The most common type of volatile storage will be your memory. In order to access your computer's memory, it must be turned and powered on. Non-volatile storage is when we can retain data without the need for electrical power. This can come in the form of USB flash drives, storage disks, or standalone hard disk or solid state drives. Storage is a functionality that can come in many different forms. Some common storage device types are USB flash drives. These are portable and mobile storage where we can connect any type of USB slot on a computer. We also have optical storage. Optical storage is when we use disk technology to store data. Your common forms of optical storage will be CD-ROMs, DVDs, and Blu-ray. We also can use storage devices as external storage. External storage will be standalone devices that will store data that we can connect to our computers to be able to access the different files and directories that we wish. Storage devices can also come in the form of memory cards, specific form factors that allow us to connect different types of memory form factors or sizes of cards inside of our computer to access all the data that is stored within that memory. We also can use storage devices with different types of electronic media. We can use storage devices such as MP3 players for audio storage, or digital cameras and camcorders for movie or video storage.
That will conclude our discussion on Section 1.1, Computing Basics. In our next episode, we will move on to Section 1.2 in the objectives and discuss notational systems. We thank you again for following along in the episodes in the course and wish you best of luck in your studies. Enjoy the rest of your day.